Okay, so I wanted to take a minute since I just got home from seeing Black Widow. This is the premiere night, so I don't know how many other people's reviews are out there or anything, but I just wanted to give like a non-spoilery like type review of the movie. Um, I went in kind of uneasy and kind of with low expectations because I'm pretty sure this movie got pushed back a few times, and I know some of it was probably COVID, but any of those movies that got pushed back or like they didn't release it on Disney Plus or anything, I was just a little hesitant going in. Also, uh, like I knew there weren't gonna be any. I knew the story was an afterthought of what was already in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I kind of went in thinking like, man, I hope whoever they bring in knows how to write and weave it in because, Endgame was such a fine. Endgame and Infinity War were just such, like, finely walked roads that I didn't really want to. I didn't want to go into a Marvel movie and hate it because of something silly because they brought in another director or something. So that was another thing. Uh, but non spoilery, just reviewing the movie. I gave it like an 8. It was pretty good. It was on par with a lot of the other Marvel movies. The formula was a little different. Um, it's not the standard formula. I had a few drawbacks at the end, but the movie plays out just like a Marvel movie. It starts off very Winter Soldier like. The theme is very dark. It's very like spy movie esque. And I was talking to one of the guys I went with tonight, and I was like, man, somewhere along the line, I don't even know where they went from like a Winter Soldier feel into a full blown like comedy. It was amazing. Like it wasn't. It was such a good tone change that they subtly slide in there because all the main characters are like not trustworthy. It was like Guardians; they're not trustworthy people, and you kind of know that going in. So I mean, it was weird, but in like the best way ever because you're always your gears are always turning. Um, sorry, I needed a quick drink of water. But no, it was good. Some more of the movie that like you can kind of dive into without spoiling was, the trailer showed a lot of action, a lot of fighting, um, but a lot of the fighting in this movie is kind of short spurts. It's a lot of like backstory and kind of just like it's a lot of diving deeper into characters that you didn't know were so deep. Obviously Black Widow, but then like there's some other characters that you kind of deep dive into. I will say that there is a cameo, and you'll know immediately in the beginning who it is. So it's not like a huge, wait and see. You'll know immediately who it is. It's not like an A or S tier type cameo, but it's a pretty big cameo. Kind of sets the stage. Kind of reminds you where you are in the story. It does take place right after the events of Civil War, so just keep that in mind. They don't hold back from like making Avengers references, so those are kind of cool. It it didn't feel like when I was watching the movie that it felt like it didn't feel forced. Um, which was one of my big fears going in was that it was all gonna feel forced. It all felt very like seamless. The only nitpick I guess I have is the end. The end was very um it kind of like the end fight scenes and whatever were. I remember like 5 or 6 times just going, oh, like screaming, oh shit, like in the movies. It was there were some, like, this is supposed to be a kids movie. There were some pretty graphic things that like kind of made me wince and like hold back. But like the end fight was it was good but not satisfying. So I guess I'll be interested to see what everyone thinks of the end. I thought, like, I know what they were trying to do, right? This is and I'm jumping to the end immediately because this is literally like the only negative I have walking out of the theater was the end. I thought, and I know they were going for like, this is Black Widow's movie. This is just ScarJo. This is, we'll mention everyone so you know what world we're in, but it could have used one cameo, and I think this movie's S tier. I mean, it could have used a certain, and I'm not saying like there aren't cameos in it. I'm saying there's one certain cameo, and without spoiling anything, when you get to it, it's like if this certain character just shows up at the end, or I think it ties up a lot, and it kind of it does the Marvel thing, right? Like the end didn't feel like a Marvel ending where like all the Marvel ends have the baton and they're handing it off to the next person. This just kind of felt like there could be another movie here. Like, I know, again, without spoiling, they did their best to kind of keep it subtle, and then I just think a certain cameo, and when I do my spoiler review, I'll tell you who the cameo is so you can go see it, and maybe you'll think the same way. Maybe you won't even remember, you won't even notice. But I think one cameo would have made this like, okay, now we're passing the baton. So when you like rewatch these movies, like say you watch Civil War, right before you watch Infinity War, you can watch Black Widow, and you're all caught up. Yeah, because I think it's either supposed to end in Infinity War or Black Panther. I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't really tell, and that's why I think, one thing shifts, and this isn't very open for discussion. Kind of like the Rogue One effect, you know what I'm saying? Like watching Rogue One from Star Wars, when it ended, it literally like carried into like right up to the beginning of the next movie. Like maybe that's my expectation, and it's a little far-fetched for me to think that Marvel would do that, but I again, the ending didn't feel like a Marvel ending. The villain wasn't, I don't know. It wasn't bad, but it could have been better. The villain, a lot of when you're watching this, the focus is all on Widow and her character. So if you're looking for like a lot of other character development on the opposition, you're gonna be a little underwhelmed. But I mean, they serve their purpose. I don't think the purpose of this movie was to be like a groundbreaking thing. It's supposed to be a character movie, and they focused on it pretty well. And honestly, you see sides of Natasha that it's just like, damn, this movie was too late. This movie was, I felt that this movie was way too late. When you're in there and you're watching all of it, you're going to have a great time. If you go in for what it is, which is just a character movie that starts off really dark, it reels you in, really Winter Soldier-like. And then it flips at some point. Again, I don't know really when, but at some point it's going to flip into kind of a comedy. but the darkness in the beginning really sets the stage for why there are some comedies, and then the third act is a full-blown action film where they pay off everything in the beginning and they pay off a lot of the stuff in the middle, and when you see it you'll know what I'm talking about. It's really well structured for what it is, but when you leave, I think the third act was missing a little bit. Now, if you go see it in theaters, which if you're watching this non-spoilery review, you probably are, sit and wait until the very, very end. There's an end credit scene. Trying to think of what I can go into without spoiling anything, but also letting you know what's in there, because I know... I guess I could say this. For me, going in, I wasn't sure. I stayed away from a lot of spoiler stuff. I stayed away from a lot of, like, I saw that one trailer, I think, maybe two trailers. I didn't watch any TV spots or anything. I really wanted to go in there open-minded, knowing full well that this is a character movie. It's in a tough spot. It's been delayed a lot so that, it didn't release to Disney Plus, so it's either really good or it's really bad. I went in thinking I wanted to see or know more about Budapest. My headspace was, I don't want them to try and overpower Black Widow. You know where she goes after this movie, so it's like you don't want to see them kind of like make her super strong or much more, whatever. You want to see her just develop like she was on pace with. I didn't want to see any other Avengers. I wanted this to be a Widow movie going in. I didn't want anyone to add or take away from what we were owed. I felt like as a fan I was owed more Black Widow because I think she's a very in-depth character, but she also has like a very like adult feel to her, and I wanted as much of it as you could give me. And throwing like a Thor, well, maybe not Thor, but like Captain America or like Ant-Man in there, or like they kind of drag you back towards the kids section, and it's like, nah, Black Widow has a disgusting background, and I want to know as much. I want to see as much. You like tiptoed around it in Age of Ultron, and in this movie they don't really, when they do discuss like her background and her childhood and everything, it's it's about as close to adult in a kids movie as you can get. So again, choosing my words carefully here to not spoil what you may or may not see or hear in the movie, but like it's a great closure to the character we were owed. That I think if you are watching the Marvel movies and you know how her character arc plays out, you're gonna love this. Her development here, it makes Endgame so much sweeter and like so much more unique. And there's even like quotes in Endgame that will tie into this. So if you want the connective tissue that Marvel usually gives, it's a lot smaller here, but it's there. You really have to like have open ears for it. Again, watch my spoiler review. I'll go right into it. I'm gonna go plot point for plot point in that, because I thought there's a lot to cover here as far as who Natasha was as a human being. And they start from the very beginning, like the very beginning. And it's really a beautiful story. I just think the only negative I had, and I think a lot of people are going to have this, because I went and saw it with a very diehard Widow fan. She just watches the movies, and she said before I could even get the words off my lips, I could have used 20 more minutes of at the end here to tie this movie up. the end felt a little rushed, but they also didn't trample on anything in the other movies with the end. And you'll know what I'm talking about when you see it. It's just everything leading up to that. The movie is like so well paced that like I didn't even realize we went in at 8:30. We're sitting there looking at the credits. It's 11 o'clock. I'm like, oh my god, where did the time go? It feels like it should have been like 9 o'clock, 9:30. Like it felt like it just flew by. So like I think another 10 to 15 minutes even would have made it better. They introduce something. If you were looking for positives and negatives that I can give you, the family is S tier. It's so complicated, and the roles that everyone plays in it is so like it's so fresh. It's like a huge fresh idea, but it's not. It's really well done. Where like, I mean, you saw the trailers. The mom is the mom. She's the neck that turns the head, right? And the dad is like an Al Bundy. And then you have your kids who are the sibling rivalry. It's crazy. I mean, you can gather that from the trailers that it's just so. I thought it was so well done. And the comedy that they play is supposed to be like serious, but it just comes off hilarious. I think a family film, probably not ideal. I don't see many kids, possibly girls who love the character. Girls who love the character or boys who love the character. It's a pretty badass movie. They'll like it. There's some laughing points. But this is a teenage to adult movie. I don't think there'd be so much to unwrap in certain areas for a child that like I don't know if I'm bringing a kid to see this. Maybe on Disney Plus where I could pause, but there's so many different things to explain. Yeah, like they touch on everything. Yeah, there's a lot to explain. I don't know if you're thinking about bringing your kid to go see it, just know you're gonna have to answer a few questions. Some maybe about girls' bodies that maybe you don't want to. They kind of touched on it in Age of Ultron. They dive a little deeper in here, obviously, because Black Widow's origins movie, whatever. So you're gonna have to deal with that. If you're up for that, go for it. I personally give this movie like an 8 out of 10, maybe 8.5. The end credit scene is phenomenal. It's not a troll. It's really good. Sets up doesn't really. It ties to a Disney Plus series and directly to a movie. So I think it's worth sitting around and waiting for. If one other thing I would say is if I get again trying not to spoil. The best thing I could say if you were thinking like not sure I want to see it, like the movie's kind of, it seems irrelevant. It seems like the movie is past when it should. You're right. The movie definitely, we were owed this movie around the time we got Black Panther. I think that's when we were owed this movie. However, or even I think they might have been onto something with maybe when Spider-Man Far From Home came out, they dropped it then. I think that was that the original plan? Because didn't Far From Home come out like around Christmas time, and then Black Widow was supposed to come out, and then the world died. You're right. The movie is not timed perfectly, but if you even remotely like Black Widow, you're gonna enjoy this start to finish. It literally picks up. And this is why I think this is why I had a problem with the end too. It literally picks up right. Well, it will pick up right when Civil War ends. Like literally right when Civil War ends, this picks up. But the ending didn't hand it off like that, right? So that was my problem. Outside of that, the fighting was great. There was one or two scenes that you're gonna be like, I don't know about that. But outside of that, everything was pretty well done. I do have some further nitpicks that I'm going to go over in my spoilery review, because I think this movie was 10 extra minutes, an additional cameo, and maybe a smoother like end fight from being like Winter Soldier tier, which I have Winter Soldier like S+ tier. So I think it was really, really close. If you can get past that ending, like I want to see it again. The ending is a nitpick. It's not an insult at all. The graphics, phenomenal. The plot, thin, but you're not there for the plot, right? You're there for the character development, and how she becomes this red dripping ledger assassin into queen of the Avengers, basically. So, I mean, keep all that in mind. Would 100% see again. Plan to see it again this weekend. The end was the only nitpick. The plot was great. The villain was the villain. Definitely check out my non-spoilery review. I will be telling you why the villain. Marvel just, I mean, take it for what it is, right? Marvel's just not great with one-off villains. They're just not. So, you know, if you like Iron Man, you know, if you like Captain America, if you liked Thor, any of the Thors, if you like those standalone movies versus the Avengers where the villain is a one and done, Guardians of the Galaxy, any of those, you know the villain, it is what it is. I mean, some of them you like, some of them you don't really like, but they really don't dictate how good the movie was. The only time the villain really dictated how good the movie was, I think, was Infinity War. Maybe you might be able to make the case that Winter Soldier, but even then, Robert Redford's character was really the villain there. So, just to recap, non-spoilery review, not giving anything away here. The movie plays like Winter Soldier, has shades of Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a character movie. If you're looking for all these Easter eggs and you're looking for all these, like, anything hinting at what maybe the next Avengers is or anything like that, you're in the wrong movie. This movie is going to be 100% a character movie. It's really well done. It's really good. Scarlett Johansson, I think she's been pushing for this movie for years before they greenlit it. And now you know why, because she probably knew how the films were playing out, and would have been great. I give it like an 8 to an 8.5 out of 10. It was really fun. I remember laughing a lot. I remember the fight scenes were brutal. The end fight scene, there's a moment in the third act where you just literally, I've never been to a movie with one of the people that I was with tonight, and we maybe spoken once or twice prior, just full on grabbed by mistake. Maybe, it might have been the armchair or I grabbed their arm, but I was just like, oh my God. Like, there was an oh shit moment. Is what it is. But like they really made this movie for adults and teenagers, and you're gonna feel there was at least 3 moments where I was like, I could break down and cry, like if they just say the right word next, I could break down and cry, like it's. And then there's gonna be times where you just laugh. It's just so well done. If you love the character, if you love what they did in Infinity War and Endgame, just it's a true nod to what Scarlett did with nothing, right? She was brought in by Favreau to be a pretty face, and she showed range, and she really, like, this was her tip of the cap. This was her, hey, thanks for playing type moment. It was really well done. The whole time you just really, I've never empathized with anything Black Widow outside of Age of Ultron, when her and Bruce were having the conversation about children and love and everything. You never really empathize or humanize Widow. And I don't want to speak on Endgame for all those. I know I have a lot of friends who are binge watching Endgame. There's a few moments there, but like, out of 23 movies, she really doesn't have many empathy moments, and this whole thing was just littered with it. It was like, oh, now I kind of understand this, and this, and then if you've seen Endgame, there's 2 callbacks that just ring to me, and I'm just like, man, what a beautiful moment those small little things would have been had you seen this movie first. And that's my biggest negative, is that Marvel doesn't make many mistakes, so I think it's good to be critical of them when they do. You messed up here by not feeding us this movie 5 years sooner. But again, great movie. Thought it was 8.5. Very character based. Very, very much a Winter Soldier mixed with Guardians of the Galaxy type feel. And the end is both of those meshed together. A lot of punchy, some jokes, some feels, and make sure you stay through the credits for the end credit scene. You will not regret that. It seems like a Howard the Duck moment at first, and it is very much not. And if you're going here thinking that you're gonna see like an Avengers type, assemble moment or something like that, remember, you're in now a Black Widow standalone film. This is her character movie. Just that should be the mindset you go into this movie with. All right, well, that's all I got for this one. I'm gonna plan on doing my spoilery review in about 20 minutes, and hopefully you guys can watch this, go see the movie, come back and watch my spoiler review, and we can debate in the comments section what you liked and you didn't like. But definitely watch this movie. Go check out Black Widow in theaters, and then come back to the comments section. Let me know how close I was on your scale, and let me know what you thought. All right, enjoy.